how each NBA team can win or lose more games than projected. Ooh, here we go. Kevin Pelton, our guy Kevin Pelton. Let's fire it up. Eastern Conference, Atlanta Hawks. Scenario, Ricochet proves a quick study. Result, 34 wins. So is this saying like their projections? Is Kevin Pelton the one who does the preseason win thing? He has the win formula or whatever the fuck it's called. That is him, correct? All right, so he thinks that the Hawks will be better than their projections. I actually do agree. Their roster is just better. And I don't think it's Ricochet. I don't think Ricochet would be like the reason why. Although if he is good, that'll help them. It'll just be Trae Young plays a lot of games. Jalen Johnson plays a lot of games. And I think more than anything, it'll be Jalen Johnson's first half of last year where he looked like he might win Most Improved Player. That's real. Like, that is real and legitimate. Because if that's the case, they'll go over 32. They'll win over 32 games, I think. Pretty comfortably. This is just such a low. I always get fucking burned. I always get burned by the Hawks for whatever reason when it comes to their wins and how many games I think they're going to win. But man, I just don't know. Their over-under is 35.5. So I don't really know what this is in reference to, what this plus is. Maybe I should read the intro, huh? In practice, there are plenty of scenarios that can allow a team to beat its projection. From better health to player improvement to making trades. So let's run through one such outcome for each NBA team and see how it can improve its projection. Okay, all right. So this is going off of Kevin Pelton's projections in his little system and figuring out if we tweak one thing here or there, how does it change their projections? Okay, got it. So if Ricochet is good, then that improves their projections by 2 wins. Okay, got it. Boston Celtics repeat as NBA's best offense. So again, like I said, I haven't watched much NBA preseason, just haven't had the time yet. Did watch the Celtics and Nuggets games. The ball just hops around so much, man. I mean, it's still, obviously, it's not going to change. Like, they didn't lose anybody, so that's how their offense is going to be. Holy shit, the ball just moves around like crazy. Will they repeat as the NBA's best offense? I think the Mavs will be in play for the best offense in the NBA, assuming Tyrese Halliburton's healthy for most of the season. The Pacers will be in play for that. The Suns will be in play for that as well. But, of course, the Celtics, they have the talent. Jaylen Brown looks fucking good. Jaylen Brown looks really good. And Tatum's jump shot does look better. His shooting numbers were pretty decent the first 2 games against the Nuggets in the preseason. His shot just does look a little bit cleaner. So it's definitely possible. Brooklyn Nets. So did we look at Kevin Pelton's win-loss predictions? He had minus 1.8 wins. So that means he has the Nets projected to win 36 games? Am I reading that correctly? Just so you guys are aware, their over-under, according to Vegas, is 18.5. So he has them doubling. Brooklyn Nets scenario, trade starters. I'm shocked this isn't higher, but redistributing minutes from Nick Claxton, Dorian Finney-Smith, Cam Johnson, and Dennis Schroeder within the roster pushes Brooklyn down a couple of wins. I don't see a scenario at all where they win 30 games. That is a really difficult scenario for me to imagine. I think a better explanation would be how the fuck do they get to 35 wins? Cam Thomas is most improved player. Charlotte Hornets, LaMelo Ball stays healthy. I am going to drop a Charlotte Hornets video at some point. I do 1,000,000% think that they'll be a playing team this year. If LaMelo Ball is healthy, yes, I think that they'll be a top 10 seed in the Eastern Conference. Absolutely. He's 6'7", man. Like, it's just crazy to me. He is 6'7". The last time we've seen him even be remotely healthy, he made an All-Star game. In his second year as a 20-year-old. I just feel like we forget about LaMelo. And rightfully so. He's played 50 games over the last 2 years combined. Like, there's more clips of him speeding out of the Charlotte Hornets parking lot and nearly running over several pedestrians. More clips of that than actual basketball clips. Never fall for the LaMelo Zion healthy hype. The thing about LaMelo, though, is it's ankles. Like, it's ankles, and we have seen guards have ankle issues, and then those get kind of worked out over time as they've changed shoes, as they've worn ankle braces. LaMelo's going to wear ankle braces this year. That's such a fucking stupid thing that we even have to talk about. LaMelo's going to wear ankle braces this year. You know, guys do workouts to make their ankles stronger. There is a world where he runs over a child leaving the stadium and he's suspended. But we just have to pretend like that's a world that doesn't exist, okay? So Pelton has, and again, it's not like Kevin Pelton himself is predicting this. He has like a whole formula, right? But that formula has the Nets winning 5 more games than the Hornets. I can't. What's up with the What's up with the Nets? Can we find that article? Can we find the original wins-loss thing? How in the fuck are we getting to... How are we getting to 35 wins for the Nets? I have to just see for myself. When the Nets traded Mikal Bridges to the crosstown rival Knicks, it felt like the first in a series of moves to tear down the roster in pursuit of lottery picks. Brooklyn instead stood pat the rest of the summer, meaning there's still plenty of NBA talent on the roster for now. The Nets could look very different by the trade deadline, explaining why they've got the lowest wins total at ESPN Bet, 19.5. Until then, Brooklyn might be a bit more competitive than expected. I don't see it. Do we like factor in that they made a point to trade for their own picks back? They did the crazy Mikal Bridges trade, but that was immediately followed up by them trading for their own picks back. Assumingly knowing that they were going to suck ass and they wanted to be in control of their own destiny. I could... okay. Chicago Bulls trade Zach LaVine. If the Bulls went full rebuild by trading Zach LaVine for expiring contracts and redistributed those minutes within the roster, their projection falling below 30 wins into the bottom 5 overall. So I keep sort of with myself, the Chicago Bulls over-under, by the way, 27.5 wins. I do think they'll be better than that. But a lot of that has to do with my belief that I think Josh Giddey will be better this year than people expect. And if that is the case, I think they'll be 30-plus wins. I don't think they'll be good. But I do think they'll be better than this. And trading Zach LaVine, with Kobe White there, with Josh Giddey now in the mix, with, Ayo Dosunmu, obviously. Lonzo is reportedly coming back, and Lonzo will be playing basketball this year. How much of an impact does trading Zach LaVine actually have? That is the question. Cleveland Cavaliers, Evan Mobley wins Defensive Player of the Year. That only increases their win total by 0.7? Mobley winning Most Improved Player, or Defensive Player of the Year for... Now, let's just assume that Victor Wembanyama is healthy and plays 65 games. Because, damn, it just feels like he's already being crowned the Defensive Player of the Year. Mobley would have to have an otherworldly defensive season. So I'm a little bit surprised that those numbers aren't higher. The reality is it's hard to improve much on the Cavaliers' projection, already second best in the East. In this scenario, I've given Mobley the best defensive rating of any veteran player, reflecting a leap to winning Defensive Player of the Year after finishing third in the voting in 22-23. That adds almost a win to Cleveland's total. All right, I guess I get what he's saying. Is that like, I'm sure in his projections, Mobley's already a great defensive player. So adding a few, points or whatever to his defensive rating doesn't change much. But if Mobley's Defensive Player of the Year, the Cavs feel like a mid-50s win team to me. Detroit Pistons. Cade Cunningham makes a leap. Although Cunningham made some solid progress last season, averaging career-high marks of 22 points per game and 7.5 assists, it wasn't the breakout season we've awaited from the 2021 number one overall pick. Let's say he follows in the footsteps of the player drafted number one a year earlier, Anthony Edwards. Ooh. Matching Edwards' offensive rating from last season would generate a 2-win swing for the Pistons. All right. I'm interested in the Pistons this year. As I'm preparing my predictions, I've toyed with the idea of the Pistons being a playing team, being a little bit frisky. Just can't really get there. But I am a big Cade Cunningham guy. You guys know that. I thought he was really good last season. And just the floor spacing alone will help Cade Cunningham so much. More than anything else he does. Indiana Pacers become the league's best offense. Now, that's definitely in the realm of possibility. The Pacers' offensive projection is good, certainly, but not quite at the level of what was the best offense in the NBA before Tyrese Halliburton's hamstring injury in January. If we match the best offensive projection for any other team in combination with an improved defense, that pushes Indiana's expectation north of 49 wins. Do we think the Pacers can get 50 wins this year? Their over-under right now is 47.5. I think it's possible. They were a much better defense in the back half of last season. Now, it sort of was like this trade-off where they played a little bit slower. I think they just sort of looked at it like, we can't play the offense we play and expect to be good on defense, so we have to sort of sacrifice a little bit there. But a full season with Siakam, I think there's a world where they could get to 50 wins. I think that they're really sort of being... Are you ready to grind Pistons versus Raptors tape on a Tuesday? Yes, I really can't wait. Everyone talks about, the Cavs, obviously the Magic taking this big leap forward, the 76ers. The Pacers, Eastern Conference finalists last year. I feel like they're going under the radar just a tiny bit. Here we go. This one's interesting for the Heat. Khalil Ware contributes immediately, 46 wins. So another thing I've been thinking, the Heat, we're sort of riding them off. Last year, this is who they've been, where they haven't really taken the regular season all that seriously. And in the postseason, they turn up the zombie Heat. Last year, we were sort of waiting for it, but then it never happened. And I think a lot of people have taken that to mean, all right, it's over for Miami. There's some weird shit going on with Jimmy Butler and his contract. But I was looking at their roster, and I'm like, you know what? They might be good. They might be good. And yeah, Khalil Ware was awesome in Vegas. And there's some Derek Lively comparisons there. Not that they're similar really as players, but more so the rookie center. You kind of need a center. You can't really rely on rookie big men. But what if this guy's kind of different? They're falling off this year. They could go one of two ways. I'm excited about Friday when we do best worst case scenario for each team, because their range of outcomes feels crazy. Milwaukee Bucks, Damian Lillard back to top 5 status offensively. That improves them by 1.5 wins. Dame looked pretty good in their game last night. Don't want to put too much stock into the preseason, but it's interesting. Like, Dame had his moments where he wasn't great last year and he looked old, but by and large, he was pretty fucking good last year. Lillard's projection on offense is hardly weak, which is why this doesn't have more impact. He projects as the league's 14th best offensive player. That sounds about right. It's realistic, however, for Lillard to be a top 5 player on offense with a year of experience in Milwaukee, and that's also true. 48 wins. So you look at the over/under for the Bucks. Currently, 50.5 wins. I think that they'll reach that. I struggle to see how they don't. I mean, they were at 49 wins a year ago, and that felt like a season from hell. I guess the argument would be Chris Middleton injury or surgery on both ankles. Brook Lopez old as hell. Like old as shit. New York Knicks, Jalen Brunson repeats as All-NBA first team. Brunson's development into arguably a top 5 player in the NBA was a new high water mark for his performance, so inevitably his projection factors in some regression towards his previous play. If Brunson could duplicate last season level performance, it would add more than 2 wins to the Knicks' outlook. He's got the Knicks at 47 wins. These projections are harsh. These projections are harsh, man. 47 wins for the Knicks. I'm a little bit lower on their regular season outlook than I think most. 54.5 wins is their over-under currently. I would bet the under there strongly. You're saying the Bucks are worse than Philly, Celtics, Cavs, Pacers, Magic, Knicks, Heat? Ugh. I don't know about all that. They still got Giannis. How's Chris Middleton even walking up and down the court at this point? I do agree. For the Bucks, DeLon Wright, Gary Trent Jr. were really good pickups. See, I think the Knicks will be at 51 wins. 47. Damn. That's +2. So that means he had... I don't want to keep doubling back here. That means that he had them at 45 wins? Is that right? Wow. I'm a little bit surprised. Paolo Banchero takes the next step. The Magic have a top 3 defensive projection after finishing 3rd last season and adding KCP in free agency. Their offense would benefit from Banchero continuing his development into a go-to guy after earning all-star honors last season, boosting his offensive projection by a little more than a point per 100 possessions. Results in nearly 2 more wins for Orlando at 45 wins. If Paolo really takes a step, and I don't know what he really constitutes as the next step, already an all-star, if we're saying all-NBA, right? Top 15 level player for Paolo this upcoming season, they're going to win way more than 45 games. They're going to be in the 50s. Their defense is that good. And if they get a real superstar level offensive player in Paolo, next to Franz Wagner, next to, Jalen Suggs, what he does defensively, next to KCP and his shooting and defense, and all the other pieces that they have, they'll be a 50-win team easily. I mean, easily. Philadelphia 76ers, Paul George has a repeat season. So I'm just, I really want to know what these projections are, because if Paul George, a repeat season for Paul George, from last season, where he was really, really good in the regular season, a repeat season meaning he's an all-star / borderline fringe all-NBA player, would mean that the Sixers have 3 guys in the top 20, top 25, Embiid, Maxey, and Paul George. 47 wins? Maybe I just don't get it. What's up, chat? What's up, Slightly? 39 years old, by the way. Unk. Thank you. Hello. Toronto Raptors, Bruce Brown Jr. deadline trade decreases him by 1 win. Okay. 32 wins for the Raptors. That feels about what I'd expect. Everyone's shitting on them because they've just openly said we're going to be bad. I still kind of like their roster. Their over-unders at 29.5 wins. I could easily see them hitting 30 plus, but I don't think they'll be a playing team or anything like that. But trading Bruce Brown, I mean, if what we see from Bruce Brown is similar to what we saw last year, that feels like addition by subtraction. I mean, he sucked ass. He was fucking terrible. That might actually improve them, depending on what they get. Washington Wizards, Jordan Poole has another down year. With the NBA's lowest win projection, the Wizards seemingly wouldn't have much more room to drop. However, Poole's projection gives him credit for 2 stronger seasons in Golden State before being dealt to Washington is struggling. If he repeats last season's offensive rating, that drops Washington projections more than 2 wins. Okay. I mean, let's play. Actually, we'll do this on Friday, playing devil's advocate on how good a team can be. 20 wins, fine. I mean, I'm not fine. Dallas Mavericks. All right, here we go. +1 if the Mavericks repeat post All-Star defense. The Mavericks have the second best offensive projection of any team. Nice. But their defense is forecast slightly worse than league average after the departure of forward Derrick Jones Jr. If Dallas could repeat ranking 13th in defensive rating after last year's All-Star break, that would push the Mavericks' expectation north of 50 wins. 13th? I guess it was really like the last 2 months of the season. If you had to take out some February games where they were top 10 and like really dominant defensively. If the Mavs have a similar defense to that stretch, oh, you're talking mid-50s easily in wins. Bro, the Mavs had the number 1 defense post-trade deadline. I don't think it was number 1 post-trade deadline, was it? It was like March onwards. Once they started that winning streak. There was a terrible 6 or 7 game stretch that really fucked the numbers up. I mean, this is fair. He has us at 50 wins. Like, their projection system, nobody makes 50 wins. Like, this is incredible for them to be at 50 wins. So we live with that. It is interesting that his projections have the Mavericks as the second best offense. I'm assuming behind the Thunder, maybe the Celtics, maybe. I do think they'll be in play for the best offense in the NBA, 100%. And if their defense is top 10-ish, then they'll be easily mid-50s win team, contending for the number 1 seed. Nuggets, Christian Brown becomes KCP. So if this happens, they're winning mid-50s in games. You would think, at least. Christian Brown becomes KCP. What does that even look like? A weird morphing animation. What were those books back in the day? Where the cover would be an animal and a human, and there'd be about five pictures of them slowly morphing together until the human turned into a pterodactyl or whatever the fuck it was. Anamorphs. Anamorphers. We need a picture of Christian Brown slowly turning into KCP. Hey, Sidley, where do you shop for clothes? I want to dress like you. So this is Supreme and Mason Margiela. These shorts. These caps are steroids. Shorts are what are these shorts? Fear of God. Socks are off-white Nike. Slides are Adidas. But not just any Adidas. Adidas Alexander Wang collab. $1,600. Sunglasses, of course, are Prada. Do you see they just announced they're building a racetrack in Arlington? I like racetrack. Racetrack's the best gas station. Look, right here, racetrack. I got racetrack coffee this morning. I'm actually recording right now for a Slightly Biased clip. So we need to lock back in here. We need to lock back in. Christian Brown becomes KCP. You know what I actually think would help their team more is if some of these bench guys, like, you know, Russ looked pretty interesting in the first couple of games. Strother looked pretty interesting. If Peyton Watson, obviously, if those guys turn into like a really actual formidable bench unit, I think that does a lot for them. Golden State Warriors, Stephen Curry defies aging. Truthfully, this is a little more than aging. My projections pull outlier players back to the pack, so even in Curry's prime, he wouldn't have been forecast to stay quite as dominant as the previous season. But if Curry could run back his offensive rating from 23-24, it would lift the Warriors' projection by nearly 3 wins. So all he has to do is run back his offensive rating from last season? That doesn't seem that outside of the realm of possibility. Slightly biased muse. Per sources, slightly biased. Loves racetrack, gas station hot dogs. I eat 13.4 of them a day. Wow. You know, I'm in a fantasy league where one of our punishments, or the punishment for finishing last place, is you have to do the 999 challenge. Now, what that is you go to a baseball game, and over the course of the 9 innings, you have to finish 9 beers as well as 9 hot dogs. Thankfully, it does not look like I'll be in last place there. That sounds like an ER trip. Like, just full stop. You know, we are getting older. We're not 18 years old anymore. We are getting older. Just sort of feels like the body's going to reject that. You know, just sort of feels like the body's going to say no. Like, once hot dog number 4 enters the digestive system, it just feels like your body's going to say, hey, what the fuck's going on here? I'm shutting down. We're not doing another one. I'm going to lose on purpose. Oh, I got last. Oh, man. 9 hot dogs. Oh, darn it. If you're doing 9 hot dogs, nine beers, if we're just going caloric intake there, where are we at? 5,000 calories. That just might be on beer alone. 9 beers. I feel like you can't have any added calories from condiments. Houston Rockets. Youngsters maintain defensive improvement. In large part because Houston was so bad defensively in the 2 previous seasons. Recent lottery picks, Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr. have dismal defensive projections. Last season, they were 2nd and 3rd in minutes played on above average defense. If they perform at that level, it would lift the Rockets' defensive projection from 13th to 7th. So it sort of feels like his formula here is a little bit flawed. The projections are a little bit flawed if they rely so heavily on past performance, just because it does sort of, I don't know. The Rockets obviously were a much different team last year than they were the years prior, due in large part to Ime Udoka getting there, their young guys getting better, Fred VanVleet, you know, a real actual veteran being thrown into the mix, Dylan Brooks obviously. So yeah, if they keep getting better defensively, they will be 1,000% in the mix for the playoffs, 100%. They'll be a scary team. Clippers, Kawhi Leonard plays 68 games. That has him at 38 wins. That's sad. That is sad. If Kawhi Leonard is healthy enough to get to 68 games, which he did play last year, 68 games, that lands him at 38 wins. This dark days are ahead for the Clippers. I mean, it's scary. Their outlook is very scary. Los Angeles Lakers. Anthony Davis plays 76 games. That's what he played last year, wasn't it? That gets them to 42 wins. Man, the Lakers. My Los Angeles Lakers, they'll be mid 40s to upper 40s if LeBron and AD are healthy. Like, they just will. They were at 47 wins last year. I guess you can make the argument the West has gotten better, although you look at it, right? The Pelicans won 49 games last year. I'm not so convinced that they're going to be that good again this year. The Warriors were 46 and 36, 10 games above 500. They were the 10th. They were the 10th spot. I don't know. Feels like they've gotten worse, right? The Rockets have gotten better. The Grizzlies obviously have gotten much better. I don't know. LeBron and AD are healthy. Mid 40s, upper 40s in the play-in sounds about right to me. Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson Jr. wins Defensive Player of the Year. There's no fucking way in hell that's happening. That leads them at 52 wins. All right. I feel like a better projection for this would be, because assuming he does like the last 3 years or something, I'm assuming Ja Morant's like games played projections like really fucked up. I wonder if it would be like Ja Morant plays 76 games. There's no world. No world in which I think he's back in Defensive Player of the Year conversations. Minnesota Timberwolves repeat as NBA's best defense. Whoa, what the hell? Whoa. All right. They repeat as the NBA's best defense, and that has them at 46 wins. What? Wow, his projections have the Timberwolves at 42 wins. What on earth? I really think it's because he tries to like avoid outlier seasons. But in those, like, trying to avoid outlier seasons, like, if you were to look at the Timberwolves' last 3 years, obviously last year's an outlier season, but that outlier season just is a trend, I think, for the Timberwolves. Where, hey, we're really good on defense now. Anthony Edwards is here as a star. And it sort of doesn't factor that in. 42 wins. And this is saying if they had the best defense again, they're only at 47. Huh. The simple explanation for why the Timberwolves' initial projection was so poor is that they're projected 9th in defensive rating after leading the league last season. My projections take multiple seasons of data, which includes 22-23 when Minnesota ranked 10th on defense. Still, there was nothing fluky about the way the Timberwolves defended last season, and adding guard Dante DiVincenzo likely upgrades their perimeter defense. Okay, interesting. Pelicans, Zion Williamson plays 70 games. That lands him at 43 wins in these projections. At 50 games, Williamson has the lowest possible projection aside from players with pre-existing injuries. Wow. Hopefully Zion's healthy, man. That goes without being said. He was awesome last year. He was so good in the play-in tournament. Sucks that we didn't get to see him at all against the Thunder. Just absolutely sucks. We still have yet to see Zion in a playoff series. The times they have made the playoffs, he was injured. Oklahoma City Thunder. Chet Holmgren stays healthy. That has them at 54 wins. He played all 82 games last year. That's crazy. Still, though, 54 wins. Like, that's surprisingly low. Suns, Kevin Durant leads a top 5 offense. So we talked about the Suns a little bit earlier. I do think there's a world where they could have the best offense in the NBA. Now, it really depends. Like, if their defense is passable with the starting 5 that they're going to throw out there, assuming they're healthy. Like, if their defense is passable and they're comfortable with that starting 5, they'll be so good offensively. But if the defense is a little bit wonky and they feel like they need to pull the plug on Tyus Jones starting or whatever the case may be, their offense might take a little bit of a hit. But if they're healthy, they're going to be scoring a ton of fucking points, man. A ton of points. I do think the Suns will be good, too. That's kind of where I'm starting to land. Trailblazers, fewer minutes for the starters, 31 wins. 31 feels high for them. But then you look at the roster, and it is like Deni Avdija, Jeremy Grant. You have Robert Williams is already hurt, no surprise there. But you have Ayton. Klingon's an interesting rookie. Obviously, Scoot, year 2. Shane Sharp's already hurt. Anthony Simons. Like, it's not. You look at some of the other like teams that are projected to be terrible. It's really not that bad. Kings, DeMar DeRozan repeats last season. That puts him at 51.5 wins. Wow, the projections are high for the Kings. DeRozan sees his projection decline because of his age and changing teams. In this case, this feels more accurate because DeRozan's role will change dramatically, playing alongside Fox and Sabonis. Still, if DeRozan could repeat his play with the Chicago Bulls, it would add more than 2 wins. So this is interesting to me because what does that mean? Like, if DeRozan is a similar stats-wise to where he was in Chicago, to me, isn't that kind of a weird thing? Because that means Fox and Sabonis' stats take a bit of a hit, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, just plug in DeRozan and with Fox and Sabonis and Keegan Murray, like, add in those numbers. Like, you're replacing Harrison Barnes, who had low offensive output. So, like, somebody else's numbers take a hit. I'd rather have De'Aaron Fox doing things than DeRozan. despite all the shit, I'd rather have Sabonis doing things instead of DeRozan. And you still have Keegan Murray, who's primed to take a leap. Like, I do see a world. I know I shit on the Kings. I shit on Sabonis. I see a world where I squint and the Kings are a really good basketball team. Even though I do think their ceiling, playoff-wise, is pretty capped currently. San Antonio Spurs. Stephon Castle develops outside shooting. That bumps them up nearly 3 wins. Wow. 36 wins would be nice for the Spurs. Like, that would be a nice number to hit this year. Mid to upper 30s coming off of 22 wins last year. Like, that's about 15, 16 win increase. That's about where you want to see if you're like a young team that you would hope is a couple years away from like real championship aspirations. Utah Jazz shut down Larry Markkinen. That only decreases their win total by 1. What is already the weakest projection for any West team. So he has his original projections have the Jazz winning around 29 games. And that's the lowest projection. So he doesn't have like any bottom dweller teams, which I think factors into there not being like super top end teams. We're talking 55 to 60 wins, 60 plus wins. Not a lot of 50 win teams either. Interesting. This would be interesting to look back on to see like which of these things happen and how it actually. The Timberwolves one is shocking to me. 46 wins, even with the best defense in the NBA. Huh.